Hey YouTube, I just saw something that actually my wife saw this, and this blew my mind. They just passed a law in Florida that if you build a house there, by law, to be able to build a house legally in Florida right now, the house has to be connected to the electrical grid. You cannot build a house in Florida. It's law now. I don't know how recently they passed it, but she found it while she was researching on the internet that if you build a house in Florida, it has to be connected to the electrical grid. No matter where it is, apparently, it has to be connected to the grid. And I'm wondering, because I know for a fact on the west coast of Florida, because we had property on the west coast of Florida, there's a lot of homesteads out there, and there's a lot of people that own property way out there where there is no power. I know people living out there that are living very off-grid. They have, some of them have a generator, to bring the lights on. Some of them have solar and batteries out there, and some of them have nothing at all. They just live out there. There's just something really screwy about, there's something hinky about doing that, The only people that benefits is the electric company, really. So, it stinks of special interest groups, because that's ridiculous. Here in Texas, we don't have this. If you want to build a house somewhere, you can build it anywhere, It doesn't have to be hooked up to power. Texas is such a widespread place, there are still a lot of places out here where you cannot get electricity. And there are still lots of places out here where you can't even get, well, you can't, there's a lot of places where you can't get city water. I mean, you go outside of Houston or some of the larger cities, and you're on wells, let alone electrical power. Like where we live, the electrical grid that services our area out there in Kirbyville, it's still pretty primitive. It's a co-op, and they maintain their stuff, but some of their stuff out on the outskirts is pretty antiquated, And what's funny about it, though? Some of that antiquated stuff works better than some of that new stuff, man. We had ice storms, we had icicles hanging on the power lines and stuff, but you know what? We'd have a single transformer explode. Everything ran and kept on going. And I've lived in Houston, and every year consecutively where we lived, the transformers would start blowing up. Anytime even a little ice fell, But that's getting off on a tangent. I just, these kind of things, what stupid idiot passes that kind of a law, man? There's got to be a reason. They had to, there's a saying, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but that, I almost want to say it's unconstitutional to put that kind of thing on a person's housing, the ability to house themselves, but really in the Constitution I don't think it really addresses housing. It does address your rights, but, in certain aspects, but, yeah, what are you to do, man? What if you have some property out in the middle of nowhere where there are no power lines, which in Florida there actually is quite a lot of that. I lived there. Once you get outside of the populated areas in Florida, it's the same way. You get out near the Everglades and you get out on the West Coast. There's some places where there's power running, but there's a lot of places where it's not. What if you have a home way the heck, or, well, I guess it doesn't affect the ones that are grandfathered in, but, it's legislation to the point of stupidity. We are truly ruled by the insane. This is going to hinder more people than it helps, A lot of landowners out there that don't have electricity on their land that were probably thinking of putting a homestead out there or something like that. Can't do it now, It'll probably start popping up in YouTube pretty soon, but then again, I've been to Florida, and those people are not, they're not the they're not the sharpest tools in the shed down there when it comes to things like this. You got to give the individual an ability to provide for their survival, and by making it where they have to suckle on the power company and be billed all their life, I guess you don't have to turn the lights on. You just have to have it go into your house, or maybe just turn it on for a little bit, get your CO, and then turn it off, put your solar panels up. But that does make me wonder, because she didn't read into the whole gist of the law. And this almost smacks of what HOA. You remember years ago when solar was first getting popular, and even to this day, like here in this subdivision where her grandmother lives, in this subdivision, I can almost guarantee you that if they put up solar panels out here, the HOA would be sending letters and raising hell, even though it is a law that you can put solar panels on your roof now. HOAs don't have the right to be able to stop you from putting solar panels up. But I'm wondering if this is an HOA thing. It stinks of something that an HOA would do. And I can bet you that in Florida, this is the first little dog's foot paw in the door. Not a camel's nose in the door or in the tent or the salesman's foot in the door. This is like the little dog paw in the door. And I bet you, I'm going to keep an eye on this law. I'll bet you that within 5 years they're going to make it where solar panels are outlawed down there because it takes away from the property value or some crap like that. I remember living down there. We lived in a neighborhood with an HOA, and they dictated right down to the kind of plants you could plant in your yard, the kind of trees. And it's the same here in this one here where her grandmother lives. You have very little control over any aspect of your property that you live on. You know, of the property that you paid for. The HOA didn't pay for it, but they'll damn sure tell you what to do with it. And this one here, while I'm on the subject of HOAs, you'd be amazed at how badly they want to kick people out of their houses and sell them. And I know what that is because real estate's going back up. You look at a lot of these HOAs, it's usually some lawyer or some other scumbag that's running it, you know, that's he's found himself a way to screw people out of their houses. You know, there's been a lot of stories around here of elderly who couldn't maintain their property, so the HOA sends in a guy with a mower, cuts the grass, and then charges them an astronomical amount, kicks them out because they can't pay it, and then sells their house. You know, and that's why I say buying in an area that's run by an HOA is not smart. You throw it when you sign on that dotted line. When you sign those covenants, quote unquote covenants, and that's what they are. They are a covenant. They're a contract. Remember, you've just pissed away a lot of your constitutional rights when you sign on that dotted line. It doesn't matter. You can fight them. You're going to lose because you signed. You waived it. You signed. Living in a neighborhood with a homeowners association is a bad deal for everybody around except for them. You know, there's been all over the news where they've done that trick. You know, the guy doesn't mow his grass for a little while, so they send somebody in there and that maintains the property, and then they kick him out and flip it because he's not around to pay it. You know, but. Like when we lived in Atlanta, actually we lived in Henry County and we lived in Atlanta, but when we lived in Henry County, the place where we built, it had an HOA. And they dictated everything. What kind of tree. Mom wanted to plant some trees and stuff, you know, and make the yard look better because it was just, they want a grass lawn, or they wanted a grass lawn. They're still in business, so I should say want. They want a grass lawn, and there's like 3 different kinds of trees you can grow, and maybe 3 different kinds of shrubs that you can grow, and you know, God help you if you put if even a weed pops up for very long. You know, they were always getting letters. You can't put up an antenna. Do you know HOAs actually for a long time wouldn't even let you put up one of those little satellite dishes? Some of them have this thing where if it's above the fence line, you can't have it either. It can't be visible. You know, this, that, and the other. Ooh, eyes are watering bad. I don't know what's going on. This just started. Holy moly. Wow. But, yeah. Just, it's an interesting law, you know, getting back on subject. Interesting law. I invite anybody to look it up. I'm not too informed on it. I only just heard about it, and she read me the particulars of it. But from what it sounds like, you know, it's like I said, it reminds me of when we lived in neighborhoods that had homeowners associations and how they would they would just dictate some of the craziest crap, you know. And I think some of these people have found their ways into Florida government. It's none of my business. I'm in Texas. I feel sorry for all you guys in Florida. You're kind of screwed now if you want to go off grid, but would this be the first, would this be the front line of the assault on the freedom to live where you want to live? Would this be the first little bitty piece they chip out? You know, they've taken a lot of other liberties from people, you know, relating to other things. But, you know, I've seen a lot of videos on off-grid living, but this is the first real assault on it that I've seen where somebody has actually passed a law, a real law. You know, it was enough to make the internet, so, and it could be a rumor, but from what I read, this seems to be a legitimate law. So, if you've heard about it, or you know more about it, let me know. And if you've heard about it, or if you find out about it, share the information. Share the information over the net. This is something we don't, because sometimes when these things are passed in other states, you know, other states around them start adopting it. They think it's a good idea, and they start adopting it, and pretty soon, you know, it's another thing you can't do anywhere, you know. Personally, you know, it's like I said, it reeks of HOA scumbaggery that kind of made it to a state level. But that's my boring video for today, but I thought y'all would want to know about that. I'm going to start looking into the Texas laws to see if there's anything remotely close to that here, but I don't think we have a law pertaining to that here. That's just crazy, you know, because, like I said, I know a lot of places where you can't get electricity, and if you try to run a line out there to build a house, you might as well forget it. It's prohibitive in cost, you know. So tell me what y'all know. Tell me what you've seen.